Welcome back to the RedZone on 103.3 WZND Fuse Radio. And before we get into this interview, Scott Rizal is joining us for the first time tonight. Scott, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Hector. I'm excited to get going.
You're excited? That's all you have to say?
I'm
I'm excited. All right.
That's how excited I am. I'm ready to go.
Well, let's roll. We're now sitting down with Joel Durnford from Redbird Golf. Joel's a senior, so time's slowly running out. I'm also a senior. I graduated in December. Before we started the show, I realized that we're like 5 weeks in, so that gives me about 10 weeks of college left. But how's senior year going for you? How's senior year here at ISU going?
It's been really good so far. Starting to transition into one of the, I guess, leadership sort of roles, being one of the older guys on the team, and seeing a couple of different teams go through now, and it's been really good to start. Really good start to the season so far, and looking forward to what we can do for the rest of the year.
And before we dive deeper into the interview, I'm sure all the listeners realize they heard Jack's voice, they heard Joel's voice. And we talked to Jack earlier. Actually, he said that your paths have crossed before, even before being here at ISU. So, tell us a little bit about that.
It was probably like a couple of years, sort of leading into college, and sort of through the whole recruitment process of coming to the States, and you sort of get a feeling of all the people who are traveling over and doing well over here. And Jack was one of those guys. And before I came to ISU, so this is my second year here, I sort of reached out to him because I found him on some social media. I don't actually remember what it was, but just sort of asked him a few questions about what the school was like, and sort of got a heads up, and he's been really good with me ever since we first got here. So.
And you're from Tarqawi? I don't know if I'm saying that right.
You did well.
Tarqawi.
You did very well.
And he's from Newton, Toowoomba?
Yeah.
Okay, so how far is that in distance? Are you guys kind of close back at home, or no?
It'd be about probably a 18-hour drive.
So that's super far, yeah.
So, I mean, Australia's similar sort of size to America, and so I'm sort of like, Houston. He's sort of in the northeast, so it's quite a distance apart. But I'm sure we'll cross paths again once we're back home. So.
That's awesome. And honestly, like, I don't remember the last time we had 2 interviews on one show, and the fact that we had no idea. We knew you were both from Australia, but the fact that you both said like your paths had crossed before even here, I think it's pretty cool. But Joel, you and the rest of the Redbird golf team, you guys were in Dayton this past weekend, correct? Not Dayton.
We're in Cedar Rapids.
Cedar Rapids, excuse me. Yeah, Cedar Rapids. So David Perkins, as a team, you guys tied for 4th. David Perkins got that overall victory. And I know golf is a super personal sport. But taking a step back, how does that feel as a team, knowing that you guys are tied for 4th? David's not the only one out there having a good weekend of golf. There's other guys like you having really good weekends. So as a team, what's the feeling as we head into these last couple tournaments you have this semester and then into next semester? And
I mean, it's obviously a very big team game. I mean, pretty much all college sports really are at the end of the day. Golf being an individual sport obviously makes it quite a unique situation to be in, but look, everybody on the team and coaches and everybody involved was so proud of Dave Perkins this week and of what he achieved. Like, around that golf course and what he achieved it was unbelievable. We're so proud of what he achieved, and for someone of such a talent to finally get that first win on the board was just massive. So it's going to do him the world of good. Confidence should be sky high for the rest of the semester. As a team, we were. I mean, at one stage, I think we were actually 8th or 9th during the final round. So we weren't looking so great for quite a long time, and we sort of have live leaderboards on our phone that we're allowed to check up on along the way, which is kind of nice to know where you stand, especially coming down to the last few holes. You can sort of check where you're at and try and make a final push to try and climb the board a little bit, and to try and we jumped up like 4, 5, 6 spots in the last 5 or 6 holes, and just showed a lot of character for all of us team members who put in that one last final effort to try and get as much out of the tournament as we could.
So Joel, being from Australia, was it always kind of part of the plan to come to the United States and play golf here, kind of pursue that?
No, it wasn't actually. I went through the whole of high school without knowing exactly what I wanted to do. I was, just a small town country kid and didn't really have a huge amount of aspiration, just because simply I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. And I ended up captaining the under-18 state side, which it's one of the bigger honours, is playing for your state team back home. And from there, a couple of recruitment companies were like, there's an opportunity in America. Like, I'd never heard about the NCAA, I'd never heard about any college sport before, and I was like, well, I don't really have any aspirations at the moment, like, let's give it a go. I mean, my high school grades weren't great, I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do, and I went through one recruitment company and it sort of fell through kind of quick. I was about 2 weeks away from heading to my first school when they decided to pull their golf program completely on me.
Wow.
So I ended up having about 18 months of a gap time, and then went through a different recruitment company who another friend of mine went through. Ended up going and coming to the US, and I'd never seen the US before. The first time I was in the US was at midnight at a strange place, strange country. Didn't know exactly what I got myself into, but I was ready to go and ready to try and move on to the next step, and just sort of haven't looked back. It's just been an amazing experience.
So was it a difficult transition? Because I mean, if someone else has to just go to just a foreign place and really start a new life, because that's what you did.
Yeah.
Was that a tough transition for you?
The first 2 weeks were pretty daunting when I first got to the States. I won't lie. It wasn't so much tough, but it just took a little bit of a transition time to sort of really get the feeling of what America was like.
Yeah.
It's definitely a different culture here compared to what it is at home. And but after a couple of weeks and getting to know the team members, we were just one big family so quickly, and we just did everything together. All 10 of us on my first team were all living in the dorms together, we're all 30 feet apart.
Yeah.
And sort of living life together, and it was amazing. Like, the whole college system is something that I wish so many athletes got to experience from a situation that I grew up in. So I'm kind of an ambassador these days because I've now had the experience, and I want other people to sort of get the same opportunities as what I got. So.
And Joel, do you have any brothers or sisters that are still back in Australia, or anybody that can kind of make the same adjustment that you did, or transition to another state or country or something like that too?
I've got one younger sister. She's a very good athlete in her own right, playing a Commonwealth sport called netball, it'll be one to look up. It's a little bit different, sort of like a variable of basketball sort of thing. So, like I said, good athlete in her own right, but she didn't really want to go down the same path as what I did. She's got a full-time job now. She's probably got her life together a little more than I did, to be honest. But I mean, for someone like her, it was definitely an opportunity if she wanted to, if she was playing the sports that America does. So it's definitely an opportunity for people like her.
Yeah, I actually looked it up because I wasn't sure how big golf is in Australia. So I looked up just a couple different Google searches, and I actually read up on netball a lot. And honestly, it's something that I think I'd enjoy playing it. I don't know if I'd be good at it, but
it's very fast paced.
Yeah,
I don't think I'd get through a game. To be honest. Not that I'm the fittest person in the world, but it does take a lot out of you. So.
I don't like that because there's no way I'll get through a whole game. Right? if Joel can't get through it, there's no way I have any chance of getting through it.
That's why we're on the golf team.
Hey, but you guys are walking a lot. I mean, you guys are burning a lot of calories playing that game too.
We do. We probably rack up about, I'd say, between 20 and 25 miles on a 36-hole day. And that's with 30 pounds of stuff on your back too. So we do have some pretty big days.
He's in good shape. He's trying to say he's not.
Trying to sit here and tell us he's not. Yeah, he's training every day.
So, and I wanted to ask you this. I don't know how different the climates are compared to here in Australia.
Yeah.
Are the golfing conditions different? I don't know if there's different, I'm sure there's different wind patterns. I don't know if you guys have maybe even a different kind of grass, because I've been to different states that have different grass than we have here.
Yeah.
So are there different conditions, and if so, is it tough? Was it tough, adjusting,
So, as a general rule, the ground is just a lot firmer in Australia, so the ball tends to roll a lot further, whereas here the ground is quite soft and the ball sort of finishes where it just decides to land. It doesn't really move far from that position, so that's definitely the one big change that you definitely see. From a golfing standpoint, the ball tends to react and roll a lot more on the green, so the spin rate is a massive factor when you play in Australia compared to here. But the scenery is a lot different as well. A lot of golf courses in America are tree lined, a lot of trees, you're almost in amongst forests at times, whereas Australia, you don't tend to see that quite as much. It's generally like open plains, not a huge amount of trees on most golf courses. So there is definitely a big difference, and it takes a big transition when I go between the two countries to try and adjust back to the same conditions again. It generally takes me 2 or 3 weeks to get adjusted again.
Absolutely. And you guys, I mean, you've been playing, you're a senior, so you've been kind of playing these courses for a while. What has been, throughout your journey, what's kind of your favorite course that you've played at that you feel the most comfortable at going into a competition?
It's generally a course that's wider, and I can sort of pull out driver and hit it as hard as I like, knowing that like go find it sort of golf. Whereas if I get on a tree line golf course, I get a little bit nervous, a little bit shaky on the tee, just trying to fit it between the trees the whole time. And I think as a team, we've probably had a lot of success over those sort of golf courses. Like we go to Missouri in the spring and Purdue are 2 big tournaments in a row where the golf courses are quite wide, and you can tend to be a little bit more wayward off the tee. And we did very well in both of those tournaments last year. So I hope we get to play a few more tournaments on courses like that in the coming up.
And we know you got some power on you. So my next question is going to be, what has been like the farthest drive you've ever hit?
Not one really comes to mind, but I imagine probably 360, 370 yards. If you get something downwind, or maybe downhill at times, you could probably even stretch it out, getting closer to 400. But you have to have the right conditions to do it.
That's a long drive.
And from the way this interview's been going, I feel like he's being a little modest. So give or take a couple yards there, maybe a little farther.
And final question here. We did this. We ran out of time so fast, and I'm kind of I'm upset. I didn't want it to stop. Last question though, before we let you go. I love golf. I love golfing. I'm just not good at it. I don't know how to hit the ball straight. What do you tell someone like me, someone like Scott, who wishes they were good at golf? How do we fix our golf swings? What's the key to I just need to hit the ball straight?
Generally, time, practice, and lessons are probably the big 3 that come to mind. I mean, I've been playing for 15, 16 years now, and even then I struggled to hit it straight at times. So
it's the hardest sport.
It's a very, very fine motor skill, and you're trying to get like a lot of power at the same time. So a lot of elements tend to come into it. So
I was hoping it was going to be a lot easier than that.
Just adjust your grip. Just
that's what I was. That's what I was hoping
30 yards.
For. But Joel, thank you so much for joining us. We had fun. Hope you had fun too.
I definitely did.
It was a good time. You guys are in the Bearcat Invitational next weekend, right?
Yeah, next weekend.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye out for that. But Joel, thank you so much. We will take a break. We'll come back for the newscast. You're listening to the Red Zone on 103.3 WZND.